Hey there. Today what we're going to be doing is we are going to be stringing a Rabil 2 high school spec lacrosse head here made by Warrior with some 15 millimeter green and white Marc mesh. And what we'll be using is some basic Gymalax, and I believe that we refer to this as, yeah, this is just our sidewall string. Sorry, there's sometimes that a lot of people like to use nylon. I definitely prefer using sidewall string. And what we're going to be doing today with this Rabil is we're going to be stringing it with an Iroquois Topstring. So some of the advantages that the Iroquois Topstring has to other types of, just I guess the traditional Topstring is if strung correctly, it can have a quicker release while producing a still low, if you choose to string it so, producing a low pocket feel or a mid to high pocket feel. You can be very, very creative with it if done properly, but the biggest, advantages are that quick release while still being able to maintain, specific pocket depth, right? So typically what you'll see on a lot of, traditional, or not traditional, but traditional mesh sticks rather, is that they'll have the top row of the diamonds stretched all the way to the top of the plastic right here. And what this Iroquois Topstring is going to do is it's going to move that top row of diamonds. What we're going to do today is we're going to probably drop it down probably close to about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. You can certainly go lower than that, and that's going to create an even quicker release. It's going to make catching probably errant passes a little bit more difficult as you're kind of taking away that surface area that the mesh has. But with a great set of hands, anything's possible, right? So we're going to go ahead and get into it. As you can see, I already cut off the tag of the Marc mesh. So I have never strung a Rabil head before, and Marc mesh is not mesh that I typically string with. I do really enjoy Marc mesh. So reasons why I don't string with Marc mesh. So I live down here in Texas. Marc mesh with the mixture of humidity seems to be a little bit more, it's just hard to string it consistently, right? But when done properly can be, is a great pocket. So I have this Marc mesh. We're going to put it to the limit with the Iroquois Topstring. So what we are doing right here is my Iroquois Topstring is actually going to be done with a 9-row diamond top right here. So a lot of the ways that I string, even just with a traditional top string, is with the 9-row diamond top. Part of the reason that I like to do this is because what we're going to do with this top row is we're going to stretch it out as much as it possibly can be stretched out. And what that's going to do is it's just going to allow us to really be able to form our pocket with a much more defined channel through, some basic interlocking and some knots that we're going to get to here in a little bit. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to cut myself out some top string. And what I usually like to do for my top string right here, for my people that, haven't done this at home very often, for your top string, what I like to do, I don't necessarily measure it out, with a ruler or anything like that. I like to go, so if we're counting the width, or the widest part of the head right here, okay, you probably want about triple that. And for those of us at home, and those of us who have strung before, y'all know that we would rather have too much string at the very end than not enough string, because if you do not have enough string to finish off your top string or your sidewall patterns, you are either going to have to kind of rig it together, which isn't going to look pretty, isn't going to feel pretty, and isn't going to probably produce the same consistency over time, or you're going to have to completely unstring it and restring it again. And for something that's just kind of like a silly little mistake, which I have done countless times, it's just something that you can kind of prevent. So what we're going to do right here to start this top string is I'm going to create a knot. So the way that I do this knot is I'm just creating a little loop right here. I'm creating a second loop, okay? And then I'm going to feed, sorry, my fingers are probably getting in the way. I'm going to feed the string back through, both loops. Talking through this and doing it at the same time, a little bit more difficult, right? So I'm right here, And the reason that I do this knot right here is because specific heads have really large holes on the sidewall. This head right here doesn't have anything that's super large, and some heads have super petite ones, but normally towards the top right here, you're gonna have your larger holes. So you wanna make sure, like I said, we're gonna be pulling these strings extremely tight at the very end of all of this and throughout the process. So you wanna make sure that you have a knot that's able to withstand, you know, the spacing of that hole right there. And so what I'm gonna do right here, since I said we were doing the Iroquois, is we're going to actually drop it down to, for this head right here, to just about the widest point of the head. And what I'm going to do for this Rabil head, it's actually the third hole, for those of you that want to string this at home with us. And good luck getting a Rabil head, because I guess they are no longer being produced with everything that's going on with you know, the creation of the new lacrosse league and whatnot. And so what I'm doing right here is I just stuck the string through the basic sidewall hole, fed it through the mesh. This is a little petite hole right here, so I'm having a little bit of a tough time feeding my sidewall string all the way through. If you ever are having a hard time with that and it won't go through, there's a couple different things you can do. I'm taking like a sharper edge, or not necessarily sharp edge, but like a pokey edge, and kind of feeding it through will help. But as you can see right here, all we have done is I have gone through the sidewall, brought it through the top row of the diamond right here. Doing a terrible job of showing it to y'all, I apologize. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed it back through that same hole, making sure that as I pull tight right here though, that I'm actually going in between where this diamond is and where this sweet spot is right there, the edge of the mesh, okay? And it's important that we do that, because we don't want to necessarily string with any part of the mesh that isn't going to be valuable, okay? And by having this huge chunk right here in between your string, and in between your sidewall string and your actual sidewall, what it's going to do is it's going to create unnecessary space, and it's kind of hampering your ability to really have a proper channel, okay? And so now we start the Iroquois top string. And for those of us that just want to start a traditional, or you know, your traditional top string, this is how I also interlock mesh. The reason that I do this is because you can pull super tight right here. It holds really tight, and it's going to be something that works consistently, okay? It's nothing fancy. So what we're going to do is from this position right here, I'm actually going to go from the back through the next diamond and pull up. And then I'm going to go from, sorry y'all, I'm just starting to do this without talking to y'all about it. I'm going to go from the back of the head through the first top string. And as I pull right here, you'll notice that I'm bringing the string from behind the head through the scoop to in front of the head, and then passing it back behind that string right there. That's really important, okay? And what's not important at the very start of this is keeping everything super tight. So when we're stringing an Iroquois top string, it's actually going to be a process where we go back after we string it up and we start to put in some of the sidewalls, where you're gonna go back and you might be able to play a little, or you're going to play a little bit with some of the spacing, with some of the knots, right? So as we do this, that's just something to keep in mind, that you don't need to make it super tight at the beginning, because we are going to be going back through and doing this, okay? And so I'm taking that same piece of string that's already working its way towards the back of the mesh, sticking it now through the front, so going front to back and through the next diamond, okay? So to where I'm right here. And so as of right now, we have used up 3 diamonds, okay? And so as y'all can start to see, from this 3rd diamond, we will now go into the 4th diamond. And y'all have faith, this is gonna come together, okay? From bringing it from the back through the front. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go in these 2 middle sidewalls, the closest one to us, or this 2 middle, top strings. We're going to go ahead and put it through the front of the scoop right there, bringing it to the back of the scoop, passing it this time in front of that string. So I know sometimes I'm a visual learner myself, and I'm trying my best to explain this to y'all as I'm doing it, so I apologize if it's not very clear. And then from here, we're not going to go through any diamonds. We're actually going to replicate this same look to be symmetrical on both sides to where, and I just did it backwards on accident. So that's why I didn't talk through it at first. So we're going to go from the back of the head right here through this top string, pulling through like so. And then this part right here is actually going to be probably the tightest part, or one of the tighter parts that you can make when stringing this right now, right? So like I said, we're gonna go back, we're gonna adjust some of the tightness and some of the spacing on this, but this top part right here, it's good to go ahead and start making tight because you don't want any slack to be in there. And like I said, so now we have used 4 of the diamonds. So this 5th diamond, okay, is gonna sit right in the center and it is not going to be touched, okay? And you can kind of use it also after you string everything. I like to use that 5th diamond and kind of use it as a, you know, as a landmark as to how well and centered the mesh is. You know, if anything's pulling to one side, you can kind of tell by, you know, that center row of, that center 5th row kind of being swayed to one side or the other, okay? So now we're gonna replicate exactly what we did on that other side. So I'm going to come from, we're already behind right here, but I am passing it through the front of the mesh from behind it, and we are in the 6th diamond now, so we skipped the 5th one, okay? And from my 6th diamond, I'm already coming through the back of the mesh. I'm going to pass it through the 7th diamond from back to front, right here. And then we are going to go ahead and attach the same way that we did over here to this top string to over here. And so when we do this, I am super OCD on making sure that my strings pass through the exact same way. So what I mean by that is making sure that, you know, over here you'll see that this string is crossing over in the front, and over here, I just strung it backwards on accident. So I want to make sure too that that string is passing through the front. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come through this 8th diamond now, coming front to back all the way through it. Now I'm going through my 9th diamond from back to front into that 3rd sidewall hole now, pulling through. And now here we can start to see our top string come through a little bit, okay? And it's not as pretty as it's gonna look at the very, very end because our sidewalls still haven't been strung, and this mesh actually, Marc mesh takes a little bit more breaking in than some of the newer, not necessarily, yeah, I guess newer is probably the right word to use, some of the newer variances of, or varieties of mesh rather, you know, with the String King ECD, and even, I'm sure Marc mesh by now probably has something that breaks it even faster. So I had bought this Marc mesh, probably close to like 4 or 5 years ago, which goes to show the quality of Marc mesh though, if stored properly, can last you quite a while. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm actually, so I came just through this sidewall right here. Now we're going to bring it all the way around the sidewall, back through that 9th hole. We're gonna feed this string from the inside of the sidewall hole. And this is a tight fit right here, so I might have to use something to create a little bit of space, or maybe burn my wick to be a little bit skinnier. So if you're having a hard time too, what you can do is you can try and reshape your wick. It's looking like this one was already pretty hard, so we're gonna cut the end off of it. Trying to give this one a pointy tip. One that's a little bit more, I know guys, this is some awesome stuff. Appreciate y'all hanging in there with me. All right, so we're feeding it through here, right here. Oh yeah, this is And what you can also do sometimes that works is you can pull through on the other string. All right, everything's where it's supposed to be. I'm making sure that I'm stringing through this spot right here, not having that excess with me, or that excess string. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a look at it. So I like to look at it from the front and the back. You know, you can use a ruler and be certain, you know, super particular with it. I like to use my finger and just kind of look at, you know, the spacing. As you all can probably see right now, it's just a little bit off. It's a pretty good job for stringing this, you know, kind of quickly through it and, you know, talking through it with Marc mesh. It is not going to look like that at the end though. I can promise you that. So I'm going to pause this, make sure that I'm still in the center of the camera, and then we will go ahead and do the sidewall strings together.